everyone, it's Lisa from My Dreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now today I seem to have lost the first part of the audio of this video, so what you hear me saying, because I'm having to do a voiceover for the first bit, may not match up with the hand waving or whatever's going on screen, so bear with me for a bit. As you can see on screen, I've mixed up two very small amounts of green soap. I've got a sort of more olivey green and I've got a sort of normal dark green. The dark green is made with Emerald Lagoon from You Make It Up, and the olivey green is again the same colour, but I've just added a little bit more yellow into it. I've also got a very small touch in that little blue pot of just chestnut brown mica, and I'm going to add a little bit of one of the greens to it. Now, what are all these for? Well, my plan is to make a sort of riverbank scene. So I'm having a river and I want some flowers and that down by the side of the river, and then I want a stone bridge going over the river with some trees in the background. I am going to make this design upside down in the mould, and it was a close call really about whether to do it the right way up or upside down. And the reason I chose upside down was when I was thinking about the riverbanks at the bottom of the picture, because I want them to get wider as they go towards the bridge, so we've got a bit more of a perspective on the soap. That would have been much trickier to do with the soap up the right way, because I would have had to have filled up the riverbanks, making them go wider and wider and wider as I went up the soap. So I'm flipping it up the other way so that it should be easier to pour. I'm going to start off my pour by doing the trees that are in the corner of the soap. So that's why I've mixed up those two different colours of green, so I get a little bit of mottling in the trees and that tiny weeny little bit of brown. And I'm going to be using some squeeze bottles to get a nice leaf effect on those. Now this is going to be kind of tricky for me to do this so that you can see, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one side of the tree first of all and use the squeeze bottle to go in and squeeze the tree in. And I'm going to have to let that soap then thicken up a little bit, and then I'm going to flip the mould over 180 degrees and hopefully that tree will stick to the top, and then do the same for the other side. And every now and again, I'm going to take a break from squeezing the green in and just use a pipette to drop some tiny little bits of brown in, just so it looks like there's some sort of faint bits of branches coming through the trees. Now, as you can't actually really see what I'm doing very well, hopefully you've got the basic idea of what I'm trying to achieve. So we'll just jump forward a little bit and you can see what this first bit of tree looks like. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, I've done that first tree, and that's the bit that's now going to hopefully stick there, because you see it's quite thick now at this point. And I'm going to flip that up the other way so that's right on the top of my soap mould, and then I'm going to start doing the other tree. So that's our trees done, and as you can see, luckily they stayed in place and the top one didn't fall down on top of the bottom one or anything horrible. So nice and easy now. I just want to make some sky with some clouds in. So I'm going to mix up some blue soap and some white soap and we'll get that done. So I've just mixed up some batter and split it out. A small amount of that blue, can you see it's really quite dark at the moment? This is shimmer blue from Mica Mama. And then I've got sort of about a quarter the blue and 3/4 of my batter as white. That's just some titanium dioxide. And what I'm doing is pouring off some of the white into another teeny weeny squeeze bottle. And that's going to help me make some clouds in the sky. And then the rest of that white is going to go into the blue to dilute it, because I want a daytime scene, so I want it a nice light blue and not too dark. I am going to ombre the blue slightly so that the sky does actually get a little bit lighter as it goes through, but not really going to notice much difference. And then clearly, because it's always so much fun washing up squeeze bottles, let's use another one. So I'm putting, as you can see, a lot of that blue into a squeeze bottle. This isn't completely necessary, but skies are something I've worked quite hard on. I never used to like my skies, and I found by using a squeeze bottle I can really control the clouds in the skies and get a much better look than if you just pour the soap in from a jug. I don't think we've talked about fragrance oils yet. This is English Ivy from Nature's Garden, and it is a really gorgeous fragrance oil. Each time I use it, I really do think, oh gosh, I love this one. Okay, so let's get this sky made. I am going to just pour in some out of my pot straight to the bottom of the mould. Remember, that's going to be the top of the soap. And that's fine without a squeeze bottle because I just want to cover the bottom of the mould at this point. And then I'm gradually going to build up the sky by using that tiny squeeze bottle to squeeze in, or pipe in almost, some clouds, and then just gradually layer the clouds and the blue in. And as I start to use that blue up, I will add the rest of the white to it so it lightens as it gets towards what will be the bridge. And once that's all poured, I will allow it to set up a little bit so I can scrape the shape of my bridge out. So now we've got this set up enough, I'm just going to scrape through and get my bridge, top of my bridge done. Moving on to our bridge now. So again, I've poured out and blended up some soap batter. It's still just emulsified. And what I want to do is, again, another squeeze bottle. Well, it's the same one, I just keep using again and again. I want to have my bridge is sort of, so it looks like a bit more of a stony bridge. So I'm going to have it as sort of a silvery gold colour, as in stones that have, you know, not brown. I don't want it to look like wood. I want it to sort of look like stone. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well. And the reason I'm pouring a little bit off of it is I'm going to have some of it just silver. So this is antique silver from my Mama. Because again, I don't want it to be just a solid colour. I want to put some bits sort of more silvery, so it looks like there's sort of elements of stonework in my bridge. Okay, so this is a mixture of antique silver and black gold. Okay, now I've barely got a trace, and I could pour it a bit thicker than this, but what I'm aiming at is when I put my silvery bits in, I do want it to sort of like blend together a little bit. I don't want, you know, it to look too liney. If that, you know, makes sense at all. Okay, so I wasn't too bothered with that first bit, that I've probably destroyed those lines a bit, because they'll still hold together in a little bit of the shape, and we'll have patches, but now I can control the lines a bit more as I put more in. Okay, so once again, I'm going to leave that to set up. Right, let's scrape out our bridge then. Sorry, you couldn't see that. Just before I started scraping, I knew that I was digging a little bit out of the middle, so I did go and shape it just a touch, and I'll go back in to use that to fill in where I need some higher bits for my bridge. Okay, so that did take quite a lot of scraping and filling, and the reason for that is because I literally put in pretty well the amount of soap that I needed for this layer, so that I didn't waste too much with the scraping. You can see here that as I'm finishing scraping this and getting my nice finished shape, that is all the soap that I'm taking off. Now I want to do my riverbanks. So what I've got here is I've got some greens to bake the grassy bits of the riverbanks, and I've got some red and yellow to make some flowers. And what I'm aiming for is to have more green towards the edge, you know, the main part of the riverbank, and then to get more and more flowers as we get towards the actual river itself. And to do this, what I want to do is I want my greens to be in a squeeze bottle, and I want my flower colours, my yellow and my red, to be piping consistency. So how I'm hoping to achieve that is, as you can see, I've mixed all the batters up together at the same time, but I'm going to add my fragrance oil earlier to these and get them thickening up before I then add it to my greens. Okay, I think these are definitely thick enough to not fall out of the piping bag. So I've just loaded up a couple of piping bags. I've got a Wilton 14 and a Wilton 16 tip on those. They're just really sort of small star type tips, and there's hardly any difference between the two. Okay, you can see that is still, can you see how that's still a bit too runny at the moment, but that's okay. I'd rather it started off a little bit runny than I was left with a ridiculous situation of not being able to squeeze any out. So to start off, that will be fine. And it's going to carry on thickening up as time goes on. Let's have a look at my greens. Yes, they're getting a bit thicker now too. So what I'm going to do is, again, another squeeze bottle, but a slightly bigger one this time. I'm just going to do an in the pot swirl, really. which won't come out as in the pot swirl. I just don't want my green, again, to be just one solid colour. So I'm hoping this will give, you know, some slight areas of slightly different colours as I get it into my soap. Okay, it's not going to be distinct clumps of different colour or anything. And again, I need that reasonably thick. I think a lot of people think with squeeze bottles that you have to keep everything super thin. You don't. As long as you can get it out the squeeze bottle, then that's fine. Now, the reason I want mine relatively thick is because, again, I want to build up the sides without it flowing into the middle of my bridge there. Okay, so we're nearly there. As you can see, I've packed all those flowers on the sides. The reason I did red and yellow, it probably wasn't my first choice, but those are the colours that I have in my assessment, so I have to use them. I'd have liked some purples and things, but there we go. So I've now made up my last bit of batter to give me the actual river itself. So this seems to be a soap of, you know, lots and lots of different colours, different shades and things, rather than just pouring single amounts in. Okay, so more squeeze bottles. So I'm going to have a little bit poured off because I want to do a reflection of the bridge. So I'm going to pour that off, and I've got some of that antique silver, the same colour that I had in the top, antique silver, and a little bit of the black gold. Now the rest of this is going to be blue because it's a river. I know rivers aren't really blue, but they give that sort of impression, don't we? And then I'm going to have a little bit of blue that's slightly lighter, just so I get, again, some slight differences between the areas of the river. So a little bit of blue, and then for that I'm just going to drop in some TD. And then let's pop our fragrance in, final bit. Now I'm going to pour this while it's still quite fluid, because I want it to sort of stay watery looking. I don't want any sort of solid lines or anything. And the other reason is I need it to get between all of my little flowers there without leaving very many air pockets or anything. I've just changed my mind. I am actually going to put that in a squeeze bottle because I'm worried about pouring it in. It's just going to destroy all my hard work in the other areas. Okay, some of that I'm going to just drop in to start. And now I'm going to try and get in with this reflection. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. It may look a little bit odd. Remember, this is going to be the bottom of the soap. I have got a little bit of unevenness, but what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to take the blue over the green and make it look like the grass or something was suddenly floating in the river. So I've deliberately just kept that to the middle. And if it means that I plain just trim off the bottom of those bars just to make that flat, then that's perfectly fine. Okay, so this is going to go on my heating mat because it's too big to see pot. So onto my heating mat to push it through gel, and then we'll see what it looks like once it's ready. So here we are with our soap the next day. So let's get it cut, shall we? Now I am expecting, I don't know how many holes and things, but I think there are going to be some because I had some quite thick batter going in there, but we'll see what's going on in there. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got. And there we are. Can you see, I do have a few tiny weeny little holes. Not too bad actually, but I do have a couple. So there's our little scene, and I'm really pleased with that. I do like the little grassy bits by the side. Then I've got my bridge there with the reflection in the water. Then my little trees over the top and the cloudy sky. Okay, should we just grab a couple of others out of the middle? There we go. Okay, so yes, not so bad on the holes. A couple of tiny, weeny little air holes, and I can easily fix those. Not actually showing up that well. I think this light's a little bit bright, but hopefully I'll get some good final photos of them. And then I'll just leave you with a couple of pictures of the final soap. I hope you like this soap and you've enjoyed the video. If you have, it'd be great if you left me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, then please leave them in the comments section below. And if you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping!